So this is basically the installment plan for your dreams. You're paying the price every morning, every night, and there's no way there's no way if you do this formula that you can't and won't succeed. You absolutely will. Hey everybody, welcome to the Make More podcast. I'm Matt Heslin, I'm your host. I'm here today with Dr. Shari Sweetnam. Dr. Shari is my business coach, my life coach, and somebody I affectionately refer to as Mom. Good morning, Mom.
Good morning, son.
How you doing?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
You look great.
Well, thank you. So do you.
Thank you. So we got a lot to talk about today.
We have Matthew to discuss today.
So let's tell the viewers kind of what we're going to touch on today. We're going to talk about kind of my history, kind of the history of how I've made my wealth, and talk a little bit about how that can translate to them and how they can do it. And we'll talk about some things that were bumpy along the way, right?
Absolutely.
And so you know the whole ins and outs.
I do.
We've totally rebuilt Heslin Holdings. We've totally rebuilt Green Sands Capital. And, you know, thank you for all you've done for me.
Oh, thank you. It's been an honor.
Thank you.
So I think everybody would love to know all of the basics of Matthew Heslin, where he came from, where he started, little of the history. And I was wondering if you would feel comfortable talking about your younger years, just briefly, how you grew up, the story of your parents. It's a fascinating one.
Well, sure. So I grew up in Minnesota. I'm a diehard Viking fan, as you know, miserable diehard Viking fan. But I grew up in Minnesota. I was one of 5 kids, and we moved to Santa Barbara, California in 1979. And from there, I went to high school there, went to San Diego State for my undergraduate work, and then did my post-baccalaureate work at USC. You know, the growing up with 5 kids, you learn. I was the middle child, so you learn to be a negotiator, and so I think that's what my business was.
That's where it came from.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Being a middle child.
Yeah.
So you learn to negotiate between the elders and the youngers, and it automatically you learn to be a good negotiator in business.
Do you remember some of those negotiations?
Oh my God. I can negotiate basically between 2 sides battling. My older brother and my older sister always battling. You know, I was at the dinner tables. It was always somebody was, reaching for food first. And Mom had a rule that, the girls go before the boys. And so negotiating that was always, I'd stick my hand in there, or one of my brothers would stick their hand in there just to get whacked. And so
Did you work your sister?
Huh?
Did you work your sister to get a little extra, a little first for yourself?
I try, yeah, absolutely. I was always pushing the limits. But so we grew up in Santa Barbara. I went down to San Diego State for my undergraduate. It was interesting. I was going to school full time, and I was working the loading docks of the newspaper, the San Diego Union Tribune, loading vans at midnight. So the papers would come down the conveyor belt, and then my job was to stuff them in the van. And there was a lot of downtime. And so I started reading Donald Trump's book, Like Him or Leave Him, The Art of the Deal, and I decided right then and there I was going to be a developer. And so that's kind of how my career started.
That's when you decided?
That's exactly when I decided, yeah.
How old were you?
I was probably 19, 20, 21, somewhere in there.
And how did your life change at that point?
So it had direction, and that's what everybody needs, is to find their direction in life, their passion. And I knew right then and there I was going to chart a path to becoming a developer. And I speak often about the 5x7 card that everybody should have, stating their goal. So I stated my goal on the card. I was going to be a developer by the time I was 40.
Can you talk about that for a minute? Talk about the 5x7 card, the theory, the method of that.
It's really, so the 5x7 card is really a methodology of working the subconscious to go for what you want to go for. So a 5x7 card is you state your goal. I will be a real estate developer by the time I'm 40, period. And then first thing in the morning when you get up, spend 3 to 5 minutes so restating the goal a couple of times with your eyes closed and visualizing the dream. And then right before you go to bed, last thing your brain and your subconscious are engaged in is a conversation about, being a developer. And so every goal I've achieved, I wanted to live in Huntington Harbor. I wanted to be a millionaire by the time I was 40. I wanted to be a developer. Every dream I've ever wanted, I've achieved. And I call it the installment plan. Do you remember in the old days, like if you wanted to buy a dress but you couldn't afford it, you could make payments every week, and then when you made the last payment, you'd get the dress? Do you remember that?
Sure.
Okay. So this is basically the installment plan for your dreams. You're paying the price every morning, every night, and there's no way if you do this formula that you can't and won't succeed. You absolutely will.
So did you establish graduated steps that you would decide, okay, here's my goal, but here's what I'm going to do today or this week or this month?
So what happens is when you start using the card, thoughts start coming to you. Like, okay, so I knew I needed to start getting an understanding of, I wanted to be a retail developer. I needed to get into the retail world. So I got a job at a major Fortune 700 company, working in the stores. I mean, like my kids don't even know this, but I started as a grocery clerk. Can you believe that?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's great.
Here I am today, just my daughter's off stage here, giving me the face.
Don't look at them. Don't look at them.
She's just giving me the face. But nobody knew I started as a grocery clerk and working the load at midnight, stocking shelves, because the chairman of the board of the company basically said to me, you can't make decisions for people in the trenches until you've been in the trenches. So that was part of my story. But the other part of the story is that when I was working the load at midnight, I'd have the day off the next day. So I would go to L.A. and interview with every single real estate developer in L.A. trying to get a job. And
that was a part of the plan. Work hard, interview, continue to push forward, work hard.
Yeah.
Keep those muscles strong. That's great.
Well, the other part of it is it's tenacity, right? I mean, I always said success is 99% perspiration, 1% inspiration. So once you got that inspiration, I'm going to be a developer. Now it's 99% work. And so I would go and interview with every developer, and nobody would give me a job. Son of
Why? Why wouldn't they give you a job?
Because developers by trade and by nature are very detail-oriented, very engaged in their projects. And they don't have time to train a new kid out of college. I've taken the exact opposite approach as a developer. I take kids all the time, work with them, educate them, train them, give them jobs or help them find a job. But that's pretty unusual because most developers just don't do it.
Did you have a mentor or an inspiration or somebody you looked to and said, I want to be that guy?
You know, there was this guy, his name was Steve, and I'm not going to tell you his last name because everybody knows him. But he was a big-time developer in L.A., and everybody wanted to be Steve. And so did I. Steve wouldn't hire me. And you know what? When the crash of 08 hit, Steve crashed. And because I had smart partners, I didn't lose one tenant. I didn't lose one property. We prospered. We did well. But, I mean, the reality is I looked up to Steve because he had all the big deals going down at the time. But he just crashed and burned because he over-leveraged his properties. He put way too much debt on them and then it crashed.
So what was the main difference between you and Steve kind of growing up pre-2008? What did you know internally that he didn't know?
I don't think anything. I think he knew what he was doing. He knew he was taking on too much debt. And he knew he was going to, I mean, it was
a risk. He decided.
Yeah, I mean,
risk.
Putting debt on properties is great on the way up because it makes you look like a hero because the return on equity is so high. But when the debt comes due, it's a bitch. And his debt came due, and you know what? He went belly up, and we didn't have a lot of debt. I had a partner who was like, we're not putting a lot of debt on the properties, and so we did great. I mean, we had our bumps, but we did great.
Sure. So stepping into that, you looked up to Steve. At some point, did you decide, I have my own personality in this world. I'm not going to be exactly like Steve, or did you just continue to grow to be like Steve? 2008 hit, and you just happened to be in a different position than you?
No, it was really my partner that saved us. Yeah, I mean, I was the guy just pushing more deals. Let's do more deals. And my partner would be like, stop jumping on the trampoline. We're going to get hurt. We're slowing down. We're cutting back on it. So I was very blessed to have a partner that was that smart.
So he was the guard at the gate. Were you kind of the crazy guy?
I was the crazy guy. Absolutely.
Imagine that.
Imagine that.
All right, so backing up. So you're a clerk.
I really would rather not visit that.
So you're a clerk.
Yeah. Did you need to say that again?
So as a clerk. No, but I think it's wonderful because you did know the hard work of every aspect of the company.
It sucked. Can I tell you that? I mean, being a grocery clerk, by the way, if you're listening, you're a grocery clerk, you know what I'm talking about. And I'm not putting the profession down, but, I had a college degree. And I thought I was going to be this hot shot coming out of college. And it was humbling.
Sure.
I had to start at the bottom.
I have a sense that was probably good for someone like you, no offense.
Yeah.
But, your ego isn't something that you had to worry about, let's just say.
Well, let's just say I didn't have an ego after being put in as a clerk.
But was that good?
It was very good for me long term because I realized where I started, how hard I worked. I worked 14 years and rose all the way from store clerk to vice president of real estate development worldwide for this company. And that took a lot of hard work. I was the first one in the office every morning at 6 a.m. I was the last one to leave at 7 or 8 p.m. And I had to drive from L.A. to Murrieta. So for those of you who aren't familiar with that drive, it's about probably 75, 80 miles.
Every day.
Every day, in and out. And the traffic was just horrendous. But you know what? I learned so much. I bought my first house out there in Murrieta.
Yeah.
And, it's been a great learning. It was a great learning process. I don't want to go through it again, but it was great for them.
I have a feeling you probably don't have to go back to be a clerk. So tell us more about that step that you took or the steps that you took between, starting at the bottom and then being VP. How did you do it? What are the steps? What was it? A mindset? Was it a constant push?
No, it was a 5x7 card. Again, I had the 5x7 card. I will be the real estate vice president of development worldwide by the time I'm 33. And by the time I was 33, I was a VP of real estate development worldwide. I am telling everybody who's listening, if you get nothing out of this podcast other than this, write your goal on a 5x7 card and memorize and go through it and just keep talking to yourself.
Yeah.
Reiterating the goal. I promise you, you absolutely will achieve your goal. There's absolutely no way it cannot. It's like the fundamental law of nature, law of gravity. If you jump off a building, you will always go down. You will never go up. If you doubt it, go give it a try. I mean, it's a fact. And so this is a fundamental law. If you put it into your subconscious what your goal is, it absolutely no way that it cannot happen. It will happen.
It's pretty inspiring.
That's true.
Did you learn that through books, through a mentor? Did you learn that?
So Napoleon Hill wrote a book, Think and Grow Rich. And it was in that book. Ah. And then I would listen to the tapes, Brian Tracy and Zig Ziglar and all the motivational tapes. And,
God, we're old.
We were really old.
Let's speak to your mother that way.
I know.
Carry on.
Thank you. But, I mean, the reality is I put the car down. I wanted to be real estate VP, and I was. And then I wanted to start a company and I wanted to be a millionaire by the time I was 40, and I was. And then I wanted to be worth, 50 million or 100 million. And just, so even today, I write down every goal on my card. I'm 58 years old. I've been doing this for 50 years or 40 years. And every dream that I've ever had has come true. I mean, now we're into buying companies that are drilling for lithium. I'm buying companies that are in the IT space and the AI space. And so everything's coming true. I mean, one of the things I've never told anybody is that I've got Parkinson's. So I was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. I've had it for about 15 years and was diagnosed. And one of the things I'm doing is I'm actually fighting the hell every day to reverse Parkinson's. And so that's part of a process where I write down my card. I am going to reverse Parkinson's. I will be Parkinson's free by 2030. And you know what? I get up every day and I work my ass off. But this is part and parcel of whatever you want, you got to work for. There's nothing that's going to be given to you. And if you think it's going to be given to you, it's not. And if you don't work for your goal, number one, you're going to fail. And number two, you deserve to fail. I mean, you got to work your ass off. Nothing comes free. Nothing comes easy. And for all the millennials out there, and as my beautiful daughter would call them, Gen Zennials, if you think it's coming free or easy, you're fucking wrong. It's not happening. You're going to fail. You're going to sit there and you're going to be a bum on Skid Row wondering what the hell happened to your life. You've got to be willing to work your ass off.
Yeah, that's really the theme of your life, isn't it?
It is the theme of every part of my life.
Yeah.
I mean, I worked super hard to get to where I am. I'm working harder than ever to go to Parkinson's. I mean, the other day, I went for a 2-hour bike ride, worked out, walked for an hour, played pickleball, and golfed with my wife. And you know what? I mean, I'm like, fuck you. I'm not giving up.
Can we skip over to Parkinson's since
Sure.
the energy's there?
Sure.
This is my office. So.
Yeah, you're the boss. You're always the boss.
So you were diagnosed probably 10 years after you knew you had something wrong.
Right.
You were told you were misdiagnosed, you were put on the wrong meds.
Right.
That all happened.
Right.
But a lot of people go through that. And as we know, putting together a world-class team, a lot of people are told that it's over. Do you remember the moment when you got the diagnosis, what you felt? Yeah,
so I had brought my immediate family, my kids, Brittany, Maddie, and Reagan, and my wife, and then I brought my in-laws, my sister and her husband and their kids. We took a plane up to Colorado and steamboat, and we were in a bar, and the call came from the doctor. I had gone and done brain tests, brain scans, because my neurologist said, because I was having back pain, he goes, you don't have a back problem. You have something much more serious. So I went to and had to this neurosurgeon and had these tests done on my brain, and we were up in Steamboat. I got the call. He's like, yeah, it's definitely Parkinson's, and it's stage 2. And so, I mean, the first thing that hit me it was like a punch in the gut, right? And I looked at my brother-in-law, and I go, it's positive, I got Parkinson's. I go, fuck it, give me a shot. So we did a shot, and I decided right then and there, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm not going to be a victim. I'm not going to lay down and cry. I'm not going to, it's going to be what it's going to be, but I will beat it. I will absolutely beat it. And I am beating the shit out of this thing.
Absolutely. And, having the great honor of being a part of that with you and watching you go through this and watching, I didn't really make the connection until now, but the story of your business growth and becoming a gazillionaire, I think is a proper term. Is that?
It's close.
Is it close?
It's close.
But getting to that point from being what, a cashier? Yeah. So anyway, that space, that trajectory really was about hard work, really was about dedication. And you approached Parkinson's in the same way, really. Is that true?
You know what? With absolutely more intensity.
Yeah.
Because, let me give you an example. When you have Parkinson's, and for those out there that are listening and have relatives of Parkinson's, I just want to share with you what they go through. Every day you wake up, you're stiff as a board, you're in deep pain through your whole skeletal system. And you have anxiety, you have depression, you go through a lot of different things. But so the other day I was trying to get out of bed. I literally couldn't get out of bed, so I had to throw my shoulder over so I'd roll and hit the floor. Then I hit the floor and I can get up because it's more painful to be on the floor than not to be on the floor. But it's true.
So you throw yourself on the floor because it's more painful on the floor than in the bed.
So then you'll get up.
That's brilliant.
And then you run to the gym.
It's brilliant.
Then you run to the gym and you train like a mad dog. And it's like, because I really believe so when I got my first diagnosis, I won't tell you the doctor or the hospital. But I went in and they gave me a book, How to Die with Grace. I mean, that was how he approached it. I'm like, blow me. I'm not dying. I'm not dying. I got people to help. I got to change the world.
Yeah.
I don't have time for this. So they checked the book back in and fired him and walked out. And went to Cedar Sinai, and I went down to Scripps and ended up at Stanford.
7 neurologists.
Yeah.
Seven
7
neurologists interviewed and fired.
Yeah.
And then...
But you have to make the decision and the determination that you're going to win and you're going to live.
Yeah.
I mean, I watch people, and I'm on a lot of different group chats and whatnot, and support groups where people are just giving up.
Yeah.
They're just giving up.
Do you believe them?
No, you have every excuse and every right to lay down. And I tell my daughter when we go to coffee, I go, my whole body is just like, she said, "Are you right, Dad?" She asks me all the time, "Are you right, Dad?" Like, yeah, I'm fine. I mean, what am I supposed to say? I'm in pain, pity me? No, it's like, fuck it. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to beat this thing.
Yeah. You push yourself more than anybody I've ever known. I mean, both in business and in your personal work. Fighting Parkinson's is kind of mind-blowing to watch you go through this. And talk about getting up in the morning, after you throw yourself on the ground. It's still not easy. And you have a system, you have a protocol every single morning.
Every morning. Okay, so I get up. So my first thing is I literally pray for 15 minutes full of gratitude before I even throw myself on the floor, which is...
It's fantastic.
A hell of a system, right?
Totally going to use that.
I just go into gratitude with God, for my kids, for my wife, for my businesses, for my prosperity, for you, just grateful. I'm just so grateful. I also, Lord, thank you so much for giving me Parkinson's and not ALS, because I could have ALS and that'd be a lot worse. I could have cancer. So, it's gratitude for what I don't have. I'm grateful for what I do have, but I'm grateful for what I don't have, right? I mean, it could be leukemia. I mean, it could be so many things. There's so much brain cancer. It could be so many things that are so much worse. But my perspective is 15 minutes in the morning of complete gratitude and nothing but. That I pray for all the people that need help. And then I go down and get a warm glass of lemon water to detoxify my body. And then I go work out. And then I go do some spiritual work and do some meditation and whatnot. And then go to the office a couple times a week and then do stuff like this.
Stuff like this.
Yeah.
Stuff like this. You've learned a lot from a lot of people, some of the best neurologists, neurosurgeons, really worldwide, from LA to Switzerland.
Yeah.
And every single thing, and I've, again, great honor to watch this, to be a part of this, is that everything you've learned, everything that you have tripped upon that could possibly help your brain, that could possibly help you reverse Parkinson's, you have done it.
Yeah.
There's not a thing.
Right.
Nutritionally,
right.
Conversationally, who you connect with. Talk about your physical ridiculousness.
So it's not just that I work out hard. I mean, I work out heavy with heavy weights. I do a lot of cardio, a lot of core work. And then I go and I do cryotherapy, which is you go into a cold chamber of 230 below zero and freeze your body for 3 minutes. That's nuts. But honestly, it gets the inflammation out of the body. And I do red light therapy, which if you read about that, is just phenomenal for you. I do infrared sauna. I do a lot of different modalities. So I'm always doing something for my body because this is it.
Yeah.
This has got to last me.
Yeah. You do a lot of brain work too. And I know anxiety is a part of Parkinson's.
Yes, absolutely.
And you do a lot of work to shrink the amygdala, the fight or flight center of the brain. Right. Can you talk about that?
Well, that's what you taught me about, was like the amygdala is back of the brain. It's the fight or flight mechanism. And if you can shrink that, you'll have a lot less anxiety. So when you and I do our breathing work together, as an example, that really helps. And so I do a lot of breathing work. I do a lot of meditation. And those things really help kind of control that anxiety.
you've not only taken your Parkinson's symptoms back, but even reduced your anxiety so significantly. Are you comfortable talking about just sort of before and after, like because of your own personal work, you're able to function in a way that you're not having a panic attack really even once a week, right?
The panic attacks are the worst. But literally, I mean, between the doctors that I've employed, the work we're doing, the work I'm doing, it all works together, right? It all works together to minimize all of the related effects of Parkinson's. Yeah. If you've got Parkinson's and you need help, look me up, call me. I'm happy to help anybody with Parkinson's. So our family foundation that we started, the Heslin Family Foundation, builds a lot of villages around the world for the poor, and we do a lot of work for missionaries and whatnot. And one of the things we're doing is trying to help people with Parkinson's. Yeah. So people who can't afford to get good quality care, they can write a grant proposal. We'll fund it or not, whatever. But yeah, we're all in on Parkinson's.
Yeah. You're reversing it, aren't you?
I am. I will be the first person to reverse Parkinson's. Yeah. And that's no bullshit.
Has there ever been a time that you've doubted that?
No. Okay. From the minute I took that first shot of whiskey when I got the news to today, I have not once thought I wasn't going to reverse it. My kids know me. My kids know that I work my ass off. I succeed, and they know that Dad's going to be okay. Yeah. And I can tell my kids worry about me. I have 3 amazingly beautiful kids, and that's why I'm fighting this battle, right? I want to be there for my kids. They need the direction. I want to be there for my grandkids. I want to be there for my employees. I want to be there for people who need help. I get people every day wanting just 20 minutes of my time, and I give it to them. Help them with their careers, help the kids with their financial advice, help them with their whatever the issue might be. I get called all the time, and you know what? I love helping people. I say this a lot. I spent the first probably half of my life building my empire. I'm spending the last half giving my life and the empire away.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Seems like a good time to talk about your faith.
Okay.
So I know you, and faith is absolutely core to who you are, to your businesses, to your healing of Parkinson's, to your family. And I can honestly say, truthfully, I don't think I've ever known a person who has such a genuine faith, such a true relationship with God, with a true and absolutely connected day-to-day sense of who they are, under God. And I think that comes with a lot of, swearing, and it comes with a lot of anger and allowing yourself all of those emotions. But can you talk about that relationship, when that started? Was that something all of your life? Is it something that just hit you later in life?
It's interesting because I'm a follower of Christ to the nth degree. I study time in the Bible every day. I learn my lessons. I take my lessons from God. And it is absolutely the foundation of my life. It is what keeps me going strong. It is what keeps me, with Parkinson's, you don't sleep much. So if I don't sleep well, I turn everything over to God. Your kids, as an example, you can't control what's going to happen to them. But through my faith, I know that God's got a plan for my kids, and God's got a plan for me and for my wife. And it's essential. It's the core of who I am. Yeah. So I'm Catholic, right? Yeah. And my faith is everything to me. All the money that I have, and I got a shitload of it, by the way. I mean, you can take it, but you're not taking my God, my Jesus, my belief and faith. There's no way. That's everything. That's how I get through this, is because I know God's got a plan for me.
Yeah. So we should back up and identify that you play some major roles in the Catholic Church.
I do.
Even the guy who swears, even the guy who, because Jesus probably swore, right?
Well, when he was tipping over the tables and
whipping things around in the temple,
he was pissed.
Absolutely. So, he was a range of human emotions. So
he was both God and man, so he understood. And, I just think authenticity is everything. And I don't think, being necessarily over the top all the time is a good thing. I try to control part of that. But I speak authentically. And if you don't like it, too bad. Tune out.
Do you have any stories of maybe when you might have pushed that limit a little too far, or?
Well, so I was having dinner the other night with the bishop, and so we were having a great time together. And he's just a beautiful man. I mean, he's just one of the most kind, loving, real people in the world. And so, but by the same token, he is the bishop, and he's got a role to play. And so we were having dinner the other night, and we were talking about some of the sisters that have come to J. Sarah Catholic High School, and in one of the conversations, the hosts that were hosting dinner, he was talking about I asked him how they met. And I said, so it was because she was hot, huh? And the bishop's like, Matthew, it was love at first sight. And I go, well, Bishop, she's hot. And he picks up his cane like he's going to beat me with a cane. And he's so funny. He's like the most amazing guy. And so I serve as an advisor to the bishop. I serve on probably 5 or 6 boards at the diocese. I serve on my parish finance council and the board of directors of the orphan children of India. So we build orphanages and we build churches. And so the Heslin Family Foundation builds villages, and the orphan children of India that I'm on builds orphanages and helps kids in the streets. But you know what? This is what I'm made to do now. All the money that I've made is worthless if I'm just going to spend it on boats and cars and planes and 3rd and 4th homes and whatever. It's all for naught. I want to make sure that I'm doing my best to help everybody who needs me, bringing hope to the world. That's what I'm about.
Yeah. You've done a great deal for people. You've created things, built villages. Do you have one that you're most proud of?
I think this last project we did in Haiti, which wound up in 2023 in December, was my favorite. I think we built 80 homes for people who had never had a home. We built a self-sustaining farm. We did husbandries. We put the infrastructure in. We put in, sewers and storm drains and whatnot to keep the place from flooding, and that they would have clean, healthy washrooms. And they would have fresh water, drinking water, which they didn't have. So we put pumps in. I mean, we changed the lives of hundreds and hundreds of people for generations to come. And that was probably my favorite.
They were walking 5 miles to get water, weren't they?
They were.
Is that the story? Is that true?
Yeah.
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 Can you imagine, with no real structure to live in, no real safety, no running water, just the illnesses that came about them because of that?
Malaria and whatnot. They were sick. The other one was the project you and I did in Minnesota, where we had a family with a daughter who had cancer.
Yeah.
Aria. And Aria had cancer, and the father had clinical depression, and the mom had seizures, and one of the kids hadn't spoken since he was basically born. And they lived in a house which was 100 years old, had toxic mold in it. It had lead-based paint, asbestos, had standing pools of water with hot wires running through them. I mean, this house was about to cave in.
Absolutely would have.
And because you brought that project to the board, we then basically agreed to tear that house down and build them a new house. And then they become hoarders in the process. And you basically brought in a consultant to teach them how to be organized. But we tore the house down, built them a brand new house.
You have to connect the lake to the what do you call that, a front end loader? What's the tractor that was eating the house? What's that big machine that just destroys houses? Anyway, it's a good video. We'll connect it.
I'm connected to the website.
Yeah.
But the good news is, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I know you're very close to the family, I think the daughter's doing much better. The husband is free of depression. The mom is free of seizures. and they live a very different life. They're very proud of the house. They keep it very clean. They're no longer hoarders.
Yeah. He's gainfully employed, finished his nursing degree.
I mean, you know what? That's the kind of thing, if you get rich and you are rich, that you need to be doing.
Yeah.
Because to just take your money and spend it on the things of this world, it's not going to make you happy. This is what makes me happy.
So you've done a lot of projects. You've worked with veterans. You've worked with villages all over. Talk about some of those other projects,
So I had a organization I started called Serene Haven, which was helping homeless veterans. And we would basically go buy buildings, apartment buildings in the inner city of LA, and take these homeless veterans and put them in there, and then sign memorandums of understanding with healthcare providers to help them. That was one of my projects, and that was really rewarding. A lot of these guys have been on the streets for many, many years since the Vietnam War. And then you'd have these kids. I'd be cycling before I got Parkinson's, and as I was cycling along the riverbeds, you'd see these kids from Iraq and Afghanistan, and I'd stop. I'd be like, "Why are you homeless?" And they said, they trained me to go in and be a killer, but they didn't train me for anything on the way out, so I have no money. So that we'd take them and put them in our housing, get vouchers from the VA for housing, because we had to pay the mortgage, and the VA would literally pay us to house them, and then we would pay the mortgage. But that's been the story of my life now, is like really helping other people.
On a small scale too. You have a philosophy about helping people day to day.
Yeah. So the big stuff is good for what it is. But I like the contact, like like you and I are doing the Shea Foundation, where we do equine therapy for kids. That is so rewarding. Can I tell you? I mean, I get more joy out of helping a child who may have epilepsy, or the child may have
cerebral palsy,
whatever, and just helping that child. But if there's something that I want people from the podcast to take away, is making more money just for the sake of showing people you have more money is never going to make you happy. What's going to make you happy is giving it away and helping other people, helping the less fortunate. Big deal.
Back to that making money. So,
one of my favorite topics.
That's why we're going to circle back.
Okay.
So you can talk about making money.
Okay.
So let's talk about your philosophy of starting a company, finding the right people, finding the right partners. I know that you are eternally grateful for the partner you found early on. Can you talk about that?
So his name is Brad Becker. He's a San Diego-based developer. And when I left the big company I was working for, I was making a lot of money. And I essentially, I think I've talked about this in a previous podcast, I quit my job, went home, told my wife I quit my job.
Hold on. Let's back up. Let's talk about when you decided to quit your job and how you quit your job.
You really want to go there?
Absolutely.
All right. So I was in the restroom, and the president was in the restroom, and I was like, I had just done the 10th variation of the quarterly budget. I just done all these HR reviews, and I was just like, and it was a public company, so they had to make earnings. And the CFO said, we're going to raise the prices on all the customers these next 2 weeks so we can make earnings, so we can tell some little bastard back in New York who knows nothing about our business, so we can make earnings so that our stock price will go up so we can make money. It was just perverted. And so I leaned over, I go, I quit. We're in the urinal, and I lean over, I go, I quit. I can't do it. He goes, you're going to quit in the restroom? He's like, that's not a formal resignation. I go, it's the only resignation you're going to get. I'm out of here. I'm done. So I went down to HR, resigned, and started my company. And I started with no land, no buildings, no income, no resources, and it was just pure faith. And
but where do you start? Where do you start? You quit your job.
By leasing an office of 400 square feet with no help, and you get out on the streets and you start looking for a project. So I found an old grocery store that was run down, The strip center in front of it was run down. And so I went, long story short, I went to buy it from the sellers. And they basically said, we're going to go. There was another buyer who wanted to buy it. And so they promised it to this buyer because he was more experienced than I was. It was my first project, right? So they didn't have any faith I could do it. And I said, he'll never close. He can't close it in 60 days. I said, when he doesn't close it, come back to me. And he didn't close it. They came back to me and said, he didn't close it. But we're going to go with this one other guy. I'm like, okay, what's his story? Well, he's going to close it in 30 days. I said, this guy just didn't close it in 60. Now you're going to see if this guy closes it in 30. When he doesn't close it, come back to me. He didn't close it. They came back to me, and they gave me my first shot. And so I partnered up with my buddy Brad Becker down in San Diego, and we made it a great project.
Did you already know Brad?
Yeah, I did. From my previous life, yeah. And Brad and I went on to do a lot of shopping centers together, a lot of projects. I mean, he is if you're listening, Brad, you're one of the sharpest human beings I know. He is super smart. He is super energetic. He's full of integrity. He just gets it. And so he's been a great partner. And then Heslin Holdings, my development company, so that company was called Heslin Becker Properties. And Brad and I are still partners today on several deals. And he's still one of the smartest guys I know. And then Heslin Holdings, I teamed up with a guy named John Belinek probably 10 years ago. It's got to be 10 years ago now. And we've bought so many properties together and done so well for our employees and our investors. We don't have any investors. It's all self-funded.
Let's talk about the two main companies of your more recent career and explain to your audience the difference.
Sure. So Heslin Holdings is a company that does retail development, shopping centers, think drugstores, grocery stores, strip centers, Chick-fil-A, those kinds of projects. That's what we do at Heslin Holdings. And my partner, John Belinek, runs that company. And he does an amazing job. John. I mean, he is one of the smartest, most intelligent human beings that walk in the planet.
And one of the funniest people I've ever met.
He is.
And has no idea.
He is so funny. And you know what? He's so authentic. Just so authentic. And so I'm so blessed. I mean, these two guys. And then I'm running Green Sands Capital, which is buying companies and doing this podcast. And I've got my daughter, Brittany, working with me. My son, Reagan's helping out. I mean, so it's so cool. I mean, it's just so amazing. My life is amazing.
Yeah. Can you talk about running your companies? How you deal, how did you find John? How did you make him stay? How do you treat your people?
So I tell people all the time, I'm not in the real estate business. I'm in the relationship business. Real estate is my product. And John Belinek came to me through a guy by the name of Nick Koo, who was one of my partners in the apartments that we did. We did thousands of apartments. And Nick introduced me to John because he used to work for John. John was retired. And I talked John into coming out of retirement to run the company. And he's just such a unique guy. I'm so honored and blessed to have him run my company. And this is something for young budding entrepreneurs to think about. So when you're thinking about starting your own company, I said when I was talking with our guest Stephen last time, don't take on a partner if you don't need them. Not because you make more money, which you do potentially, but it's like being married to a second wife because you're there 10, 12 hours a day. And if you don't see eye to eye, it can be uglier than a divorce from your wife or husband. But partnerships, if you're a young budding entrepreneur and you need talent, you need experience, you need a balance sheet to get a loan, get a good partner like I found Brad. That really, it's a game changer because then the banks will take you seriously. And let me tell you something. The banks ain't in it to lend to people who need money. Banks don't lend money to people who need money. They loan money to people who don't need money. Like when I first started, those banks never, ever offered to fund my project. When I brought my first project, I had the lease signed by a major drugstore. I had Subway signed. I had Starbucks signed. Generally, that's way more than enough to get the financing. I was 75% pre-leased, and nobody would lend me any money because I'd never done a project. I'm like, how am I going to get this thing done? So I called Brad, And he had the balance sheet, and he had done so many shopping centers that they gave us the money. We did it. And so find a partner to get started that has the talent, that has the skill you may not possess, has the knowledge you may not possess, and has the experience you may not possess. It makes things much smoother and certainly much more expeditious.
So starting out, you'd recommend people find a good partner to begin with.
But not a partner. So it's like, if you have no experience and your partner has no experience, what value is that? Find a partner who's got the experience in the field that you're in and has a track record, has a balance sheet, and has things tangibly. You bring the project. So you go find the project. You do all the hard work. You put it on a tee, like a golf ball on a tee, for your partner, who comes in and says, I'll sign the documents for the loan, I'll sign the lease, and you know what? You're off and running. But you got to do the hard work. If he's bringing all that, he's not going to bring you the project too. You got to go do that. You got to tee it up, do all the hard legwork, and get him in a position where he has to say yes.
It's that same theme again, isn't it? From growing up, fighting Parkinson's, running your businesses, finding a partner really involves doing the hard work, making sure you bring a lot to the table.
Yeah, it's really honestly it's a search to find the right partner. Brad came to me through a recommendation from a friend. So a lot of it is, as I said, we're in the relationship business. So make those relationships and find that partner that way, if you need a partner. But today, Green Sands doesn't need a partner. I mean, we're buying companies and we're buying assets that, in a future podcast, I want to get into alternative investments, because alternative investments is a way to juice the returns in your portfolio. We've spent a few of these podcasts on, getting started, getting your investments going and whatnot. But at some point, I do want to talk about alternative investments and tell people how to juice the returns. So,
talk about your team, the team that you have. You have John, and how did you put that team together? How do you treat them? How do you keep them happy?
So you want to know what? Everybody in my company has been with me probably 20 plus years, with the exception of one or two guys that are kind of 7 to 10 years. I don't lose people. Turnover is horrific. Turnover is costly, painful, and uncertain as whether the new person is going to work out. My company is built on fun. If you read my mission statement, it's about having fun, making a lot of money for our investors, our shareholders, making a lot of money for our employees. So the only reason I'm even involved in the company anymore is because I want to make sure all my employees get rich. I mean, so I tell this to John all the time. We need to make sure that these employees are sharing in the wealth. If you share the wealth, I guarantee you they're going to act like owners. If you treat them like owners and pay them like owners, and put them in the bonus pool, put them in the shares, give them shares of the company. You treat them like owners, they're going to act like owners. You treat them like employees, and they're going to act like employees. And I can tell you, shareholders care a lot more than employees do. So I put all my employees in all of my projects. So I'm the owner of the company, right? I should be getting 80% of the company. I end up with about 30% because I give it away to my employees. I give it away to my partners, because that they act like. So I get a lot of projects just with a lower percentage. Who cares? I don't need the money. I'm doing it for them.
A lot of loyalty.
Honestly, we have no turnover. Nobody leaves. Nobody wants to leave. It's not to say that we haven't terminated people, because we have. Well, they won't work out when it's not a fit. It's really about compensation. So I take whatever the market is for compensation, I take that and add 20%, and that's what I pay them. And then I put them as owners of the company and shareholders and bonus them. I mean, I've walked in before. I don't know if the government's watching this, but I walked in with like $20,000 in cash and just threw Danielle's bonus in the air. My assistant secretary, I threw her bonuses of $20,000 of cash in the air, hundreds of dollar bills flying all over the place. And I did pay tax on it, just so we're clear. I don't want to get the IRS after me. But it was great. It's fun. That's having fun.
I think the next time I talk to you into just like maybe putting the cash on her desk.
Oh, it's so much fun throwing it. It's so fun. I mean, she is there 7 days a week, 24/7, and she's an ass kicker. She's a complete and total assassin. And you know what? She doesn't take no for an answer. She's amazing. And everybody who's ever told me about Danielle has told me Danielle Hobart is amazing. And she is. I love her to death. So even when I retire, I'm taking her with me. I told John, John, when I retire, she's coming with me.
Yeah. Sunday night, I've had conversations with her 5 a.m. Like she's just 100% there for you.
Yeah.
How did you find her?
So we were both parents. Our kids went to school together, and our daughters played soccer together.
Should we clarify who this is and the role that she plays in your...
Danielle?
Yeah.
Sure. So Danielle is my executive assistant. Her family's got a rich tradition of sports. Her husband was Billy Joe Hobart. He was the quarterback for the Saints and for the Raiders. Her son, Joey Hobart, plays at the University of Texas, or Texas State University. I'm sorry, I can't remember exactly which. He's absolutely going to go pro. Sam, their daughter, was a complete assassin in soccer. They're just a great family, and I'm very, very, very blessed to have her. But I want to talk about something else for a second. I made mention of the fact that we've terminated people. Generally, it's been family members. So one of the things I would tell budding entrepreneurs is, don't do what I do. I do hire my family members, but you should try not to hire your family members. And when you terminate somebody, it does not have to be contentious. You do it with love. Like, look, Shari, I'm terminating you because it's not a fit. There's something better for you out there, and I want that for you. So I'm going to give you...
It's not you, it's me.
It's not you, it's me. So I'm going to give you a month severance to go find another job. It will help you. And you know what? So we've never had a contentious termination. We've just had separation. Yeah.
But how about finding those people? How did you ferret out? How did you pick such great people?
Well, Jeffrey Smart is a PhD. He wrote a book called Top Grading. And it's a whole system of how you go about finding and retaining the very best. It's a very hard read, a very technical read, but if you follow the system, it works. So Jeffrey Smart's book was instructive. It was helpful. I don't use every method he has in that book. I'd be searching for 10 years, but I do take portions of it and use it. And then in referrals, a lot of referrals is the way I find people.
Okay. So what's one method you would pull out from that book that you use to find good people?
Use a group of people that you trust intimately, your inner core, to interview the person. And there's checklists of things, of knowledge, skills, and abilities that they possess. And certainly, you might see something in that person that I didn't see. And so you kind of singularly have the group interview the person. That's one of the methods. So
is it fair to say that you would find people who have strengths that might kind of pull up? I mean, certainly you're skillful in many, many, many ways.
Yeah.
But do you have any sense of ways that you're not so skillful, or that are things that are not your wheelhouse?
I am not the most detailed person. So like John Belenek he's got spreadsheets on top of spreadsheets on top of spreadsheets, detailed to the core. Devin, who works in our office, is the same way, just very, very detail-oriented, meticulous. That's not my strength, so they enhance my strength. They enhance my weakness. So yeah, because I'm just not detailed. I see the big picture. I get the dream and the vision, but the execution component, where all the detail lies, they're very good at.
Yeah. Have you ever made a mistake in terms of partners, deals, employees?
Oh my God. So I'll tell you my one failure. I mean, there's been more, but this is the big one. So I was doing my very first deal before I met Brad and did the Subway, Starbucks, and whatnot. And there was this guy who was a developer who had a property out in the Inland Empire in escrow, and he had burned through all his due diligence time. The seller gave him 180 days of due diligence time to figure out whether he could go forward. He burned all that up, and he was going to lose the property back to the seller. And he came to me and said, would you be willing to come in as a white knight, put it under S contract so I have more time? We'll do the project together. And I said, I'd consider that, sure, because I had no other projects. And I put it in escrow, put my deposit in. He didn't put his deposit in. So I doubled up and put doubled the deposit. And that should have been a first red flag. And then come closing day, we're supposed to be closing, and I show up with my $700,000 for the equity because we had the debt. And he goes, I don't have the money, I can't close. So we had to punt the project. And it was a horrible feeling. And so the lessons but what's important is not that you made mistakes, but that you learned from them. And the mistake I made was I didn't trust my gut. My gut knew the day he didn't put the deposit in that something was wrong. And I should have listened to my gut. And then, there were other signs along the way, Mom, that I should have known. This is a red flag, but I just ignored it because I wanted to do the project. I lost all my money in the project. He didn't lose anything because he didn't put anything in. And I had to go back to my investors, and I paid my investors back every dime I borrowed. And they became my largest investors. Yeah. They said, Matt, we took a risk. It's okay. I said, no, it's not okay. You know what? I should have paid attention to my gut. I didn't. So I'm going to repay you. And I only had like $100,000 in the project at the time. And I only had $100,000 in savings, but I gave it all to my investors. And you know what? They became my largest investors. And to this day, they still are.
Yeah. I don't want to say that you played that pretty well, but you've played that pretty well, honestly.
Yeah. Do you mean in terms of?
In terms of just giving so much and being so honest and operating with integrity as a marketing tool.
Honestly, if you don't care more about your investors and your employees than you care about yourself, they're going to know it. They're going to feel that. But if you care genuinely, authentically more for their well-being than your own financial well-being, I'm talking about financial well-being, they're going to know that. They're going to feel that, and they're going to behave a different way. But yeah.
Yeah. How about running into people who didn't operate that way? People who were willing to
cut corners?
Yeah.
When I run into them, I basically run from them. If I know of somebody who wants to, we get offers all the time. Would you buy part of our company? Would you buy a piece of real estate with us? Would you? And if we know that this guy's got a reputation for cutting corners, we don't even engage. It's like the answer is no, So
we could probably cut this out if you don't want to talk about it. But you've had opportunities to maybe cut corners yourself, not do the right thing.
Yeah.
I think it's a very interesting story, and it says a lot about who you are.
Well, so I know what you're referring to, because you got to realize, for those listening, this is my mom. We talk about everything together. So, and she also coaches me in my business, and she's as smart as all get out, and beautiful. So funny. But so I had an opportunity to do a deal in, I think it was Claremont, and we were going to make like $7 million. And one of my employees came and said, I've got the inside track. I've got inside information, and we can make $7 million. We can get the deal. I said, kill the deal right now. Go kill it. He's like, what are you talking about? We're going to make $7 million. I know we're not going to make any bucks because you just told me you have inside information, and that we don't want. I will not do that. And a lot of developers, I hate to say it, they do that. They take the inside information. They take, advantageous information. I'm not sure it's illegal per se, but it sure is moral. And so the group came in, swooped up the property, made the $7 million, and we didn't make it. But you know what? I slept at night, and I knew I'd never have to worry about the government coming for me. So, there's one developer recently who was paying off city officials who just went to prison. And so, you know what? It's just not worth it.
Yeah, and it's often hard to compete when you're in a game. Real estate's cutthroat.
Yep.
We know that. But you're trying to operate with integrity.
Yeah.
And other people aren't. And so what is your experience in competing when you have that arm tied behind your back? You're not willing to cheat, steal, lie.
You know what? It's very difficult. It's very, very difficult. You lose a lot of projects. But you know what? The universe has a way of making things right. You know, I mean, karma is both wonderful and a bitch. And so, I mean, if you're out there cheating and you're out there, you know, paying off public officials and paying off, you know, people you work with, it's going to come back to bite you. The universe is not stupid.
Yeah. Has it ever been tempting to take a deal that you just...
So I was in Miami. I used to work in Miami. And this guy wanted to do a deal with the company that I represented. I was the decision maker. And he goes, I'd like you just to have this. And he passes across this gold Rolex, beautiful gold Rolex. I'm like, I'm not doing your deal. How good a property can it be if you have to give me a gold Rolex? I mean, it's going to be a piece of shit property. I mean, you give me a gold Rolex before you even show me the proper property? It's got to be a real humdinger. So I kicked him out of my office. But I just don't do it.
You kicked him out of your office for giving you a gold Rolex. Did you keep the Rolex?
No. I mean, first of all, I made $70,000 a year. Who's going to believe that I have a gold Rolex that I earned? I mean, wouldn't that be suspicious?
What was he trying to get you to do?
He wanted me to sign a lease on a property, which would make him a lot of money, in a very remote part of Broward County. And it wasn't going to work. I could have gotten my company to go for it, but then our sales would have sucked. The store would have closed. We had to lay people off after spending all that money building it. I was just like, no, absolutely not.
How about when you had your own companies?
I just shared one with you about the $7 million. Yeah.
Other situations that could have been...
Not so many. Not so many. People get they get the message. You don't need to send them a memo. It passes real quick. But I'll tell you one thing I did do is there's a real estate tradition that if a broker brings you a property as a principal and you don't close on it, but you close on it 3 months later, that you should pay him. Well, so a broker brought me a property. I didn't see the vision. It was my stupidity. So 9 months later, I finally dawned on me. I bought the property and I paid him a full commission plus the commission on the new brokers. And you know what? That guy was like, you are absolutely going to see every property I ever have. And you know what? It's paid off.
Yeah.
It's paid off. So doing good things, doing things the right way, doing things with pure integrity, authenticity, honesty is the key. I'm telling you, the shortcuts will kill you. The shortcuts will kill you.
Another thing I've watched you do is really honor your team and every team member. I've never seen this quite like I've seen it with you, is your willingness to, you are the boss, you are the chairman, you do run the show, there's no question. But as far as everybody's opinion and decision-making, you rely on your team heavily.
Yeah.
Even to the point where you would go against your own maybe decisions to honor what your team has decided. Can you talk about that?
So everybody in my company has an opinion. They have something to offer, from John all the way down to whoever. And so everybody's opinion, all they have to do is come up with one good idea. So my rule in my office is, if you have a thought or you have an opinion, I want to hear it. I don't care if you're the secretary. I don't care if you're not the president. I don't care. I want to hear it, because all you need is one good idea. And I can tell you a lot of great, Danielle's my executive assistant, so you wouldn't expect her to be in the real estate meetings. But I bring her in the real estate meetings because she has valuable opinions and insights. And you know what? If anybody were to cut her down or dismiss her idea, I would pounce like a lion on them.
Yeah.
Because you're shutting down a source that could be very good for the
yeah.
And so I don't tolerate it.
Yeah. Yeah, you lift people up incredibly. And that's why they feel empowered, they're loyal, they're paid well, all of the above. Have you ever been in a position that you want to talk about? Or your team?
On my way, what position?
Where your team, perhaps, people around you, partners, had one of you, you had a different view, and you went with your team's view because that's what a team member does.
Well, with John, he's smarter than I am, so that makes it easy, right? If his opinion is one and mine is the other, we're going to go with John's. So
always, actually.
pretty much, because he's that smart. And with Brad, it's pretty much the same way, but I traditionally will listen. And there's a few occasions where I'll override something, but it's very rare. You don't put high quality people in place and then override their decisions. I mean, they're owners of the company too, so they want to make money.
Yeah,
they're not going to do these guys aren't going to do stupid things. They're just not.
Can you talk about seeing kind of the falseness in people, potential partners, people who...
I think you're referring to inauthenticity.
Yeah.
So I get people coming to me all day long. It's just constant pecking.
Yeah.
And, there's people who are authentic and really appreciate you, and there are people who just want something from you.
Yeah.
And I think it's really unfortunate, but it's true. If you are somebody of resources, people are going to come after you for your resources. And they're inauthentic. And, you can feel that it's a cheese factor. It's like, God, when they come at you, the inauthenticity, you're just like grossed out.
Yeah.
You're like, shut the fuck up. Get out of here. Hit the road. And so, I come across them, but I'm very quick to dismiss it.
Yeah. Yeah, on that topic, people come after you a lot. People want a piece of you, I think every day, to donate, to invest in their companies. Yeah. You are a person who gives generously of your time and your advice. How do you sort through where to draw the line?
I call you. I call you. That's your job.
That is my job.
Let's filter the bullshit.
Good answer.
Filter the bullshit.
Good answer. Yeah.
I mean, very rarely does somebody get to me before they've gone through you.
Yeah.
And so we're a good team.
We are a good team. But day to day, people, Matthew, do you have 2 minutes? Which is, can I have $500,000? Matthew, I really cherish your advice, or donate to our company. How do you find it in your heart to draw those lines, to cut, certain situations off?
So if it's for a charitable purpose, it has to meet the foundation's mission, values, and goals. So if it's charitable, it has to go through our foundation. And we've got a board of directors, and they are very true to the mission. So it's not going to, I don't have much work to do there. The board takes care of a lot of that.
Sure.
In business, the partners take care of that. Yeah. If it doesn't comport with what we're trying to do as a company, John and Casey and Danielle and everybody else will just poo-poo it. They'll get rid of it. Nobody gets through to my office without going through Danielle.
That's true.
And Danielle is not letting you through unless you can explain to her what your value proposition is. Danielle is an assassin, I'm telling you. I mean, you know this. She is not. There have been people waiting 4 or 5 years to get through my line, and Danielle has to keep warding them off. And she does a great job.
She does a great job at it. What's the secret to your success?
The secret is very simple. Keep it simple. Bring value to the world. Hire the best people, period. Treat your people like owners. Compensate them like owners. And go after your customers with love and with contribution. You're trying to take your customers and bring them real value. And forget about yourself and your money. Just forget it. If you're good at what you do, the money will come. But if you're not good at what you do, you're not going to be making any money. And don't chase money. You know, I don't chase money. Money chases me. It's a fact.
What does that mean?
It just means investors are always calling me. Can I invest with you? You know, do you have a project I can invest with? You know, what company are you buying this month?
Yeah.
What are you doing? So, I mean, the money chases me. I don't have to chase money.
You don't have to chase money. You're in that position. But say somebody's starting out. So when you tell them don't chase money, what do you mean?
I mean, don't make money the focal point of your life.
Okay.
Money isn't the end all and the be all. Money is a measuring stick for how successful you are at doing what it is you set out to do. If you're chasing money just to get rich, you'll never have enough. But if you have money as a byproduct of doing what you do well, then guess what? You'll have plenty of it. But yeah, so hire the best people. Do not ever, you know, chintz on salary and whatnot. But hire the best people and just you'll be in great shape.
Is there a mistake that you wish you could go back and flip around? I know your philosophy of life is you are here based on all the decisions you've made, all the hardships you've had for sure. But is there anything in your past that you could look back and, you know, business-wise, we'll get to the personal stuff separate, but that you would change if you could?
It's a hard one because from each one of the setbacks, I learned something valuable going forward. So I wouldn't necessarily say I regret it, I'd do it over because it was a stepping stone to the next level. But I think if there's one mistake I've made, it's not listening to my gut. It's cost me money. It's a lot of money. Not listening to my gut when it tells me to get away from this guy. I mean, I've done it 2 or 3 times, and every time I've not listened to my gut, I've lost. So if your gut is telling you something, listen.
Yeah.
I mean, forget all the data. Listen to your gut.
Yeah.
Because your gut is taking the data and filtering it down, and your gut's telling you, yes, no, go, no, go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, first of all, just as we can wrap this session up, I wanted to say thank you for all you've done for me, because you have been a light in my life and have radically transformed my life. Whether it was Parkinson's that we worked on together, or Heslin Holdings, or Green Sands Capital, or Oak Coast Properties, or Heslin Becker Properties, or the foundation. I mean, you've been there every step of the way. And I love you dearly, and I'm really grateful. I'm really, really, really grateful.
I'm very grateful, too. It's such an honor.
Well, we'll keep working. We got a lot of work ahead of us.
Lots.
We're going to change the world.
Absolutely.
And I know that we'll do it together.
Cheers.
Cheers.